My special guest is Bobcat Goldthwait. What can we say about him? Best known for his roles in 80s classics like Police Academy, Hot to Trot, and Scrooged. Actor, comedian, acclaimed director Bobcat Goldthwait.
Yeah, you're saying it right.
I always say it right. He's parlaying his decades-long experience in the comedy world to helm a new documentary, Call Me Lucky, featuring the likes of Patton Oswalt, Margaret Cho, and Mark Maron. And I must tell you, I've read reviews, haven't seen it yet, and the reviews have been terrific for Call Me Lucky. Judd Apatow calls the film riveting, inspiring, and funny. It is a portrait of comedian Barry Crimmins. I've been around a long time. Who the hell is Barry Crimmins?
I've got to confess on your show, he's someone I invented. No, that would be a really good scam, wouldn't it? Maybe that'll be my next picture. Barry is a mentor of mine. I met him when I was a teenager, a political satirist. My favorite Barry Crimmins joke is, because he takes a lot of heat from the audience, he'll say, people say, if you don't love America, why don't you leave it? He says, because I don't want to be a victim of its foreign policies. So, sharp guy. He started the 80s comedy scene that was in Boston, that Paula Poundstone, Stephen Wright, Dennis Leary, myself, Kevin Meaney, all these folks. And he ran the club, although he was going on stage. And that alone made Barry an interesting character, but the movie is about him as an adult dealing with his rapes as a child. And while he was looking for other adult survivors, this is in the early 90s, he finds out that AOL is allowing all this child pornography to be exchanged openly in their chat rooms. And he goes to AOL, they don't do anything. Then he went to the police, and the police in the documentary say, we didn't even have computers. So Barry was one of the first people, he hates the word troll, but he was just getting all this evidence against these pedophiles. And as the movie progresses, he ends up taking AOL all the way to the floor of the Senate and basically embarrassing them during a judiciary hearing. And it was a real Frank Capra story, this little guy taking on this big corporation. So that's...
Where is he now?
Barry's still, he's still swinging at it. He does speaking engagements and things like that. And he lives out in the woods in central New York. Still a curmudgeon. Still.
Does he do Vegas?
No, Barry would be, I don't know what they'd make of him in Vegas. Maybe, I don't know, maybe I can get him a job in Blue Man Group or something, but...
He's different, right? Is he more Saul-like?
Yeah, Barry's cut from that same kind of cloth. When I first met him, his act had some political material, and then after his, I saw him metamorphose into just all politics. He doesn't really suffer. He's not.
Well, that's what Mort Saul was.
Yeah. Mort's. I got to know Mort a little bit over the years because, I was really good friends with Robin Williams, and Mort and Robin recently became really close. But Robin actually had a lot to do with the movie getting made because I wanted to make this movie for 20 years, and I thought I'd make it as a narrative, someone playing Barry. And, it was Robin who suggested that I do it as a documentary. And I was like, I don't have any money. And he says, well, I'll give you a little money. So that's how the movie got started. That was just last February 2014.
Robin Williams started the ball rolling on
Kind of, yeah, because he was like saying, do it as a documentary. And I didn't want to pull the trigger on it any earlier because I didn't know about Barry talking to him. Well, you know about talking to people, to have my friend relive this stuff. I wasn't interested. But then I heard him on like Mark Maron's podcast and Dana Gould's podcast, and I heard him talking about these events in a way where I thought I wouldn't be jeopardizing.
I guessed it with Mark Maron. Interesting guy, Mark Maron.
Yeah, I worked with Mark. I directed his television shows, a lot of his television show, and then I just directed his special.
Barry Crimmins once said, I got caught smuggling books into Kentucky. I got off on a technicality. No one could prove they were books.
Yeah.
Read books.
So... Yeah, he's, Barry's a courageous guy, you know, and he's not only a mentor but a bit of a hero to me.
What defies me is I'm looking at myself. Why? And maybe you can answer this. Why don't I know Barry Crimmins?
Well,
Why have I never heard of Barry Crimmins?
Well, I think there's a lot of reasons. I feel that the main one would be Barry's lack of compromise. You know, so in the 80s he was on some television shows and things, but I feel that Barry isn't willing to compromise his opinions even, you know. It's like, you know, he'd go on a television show, you know, that's great, can you not do this bit? And that, so then...
But I knew Lenny Bruce, and Lenny was famous. Lenny wouldn't compromise.
But I don't know how did Lenny end up like on like Playboy, you know, and those shows and stuff? Was it just
guested on my show? He could sometimes be straight, but
did he initially show that he could do it? Do you know what I'm saying?
Oh, and then he won on Art the Godfrey's Talent Scouts.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And what was he doing? Was he doing impressions, or was he doing
how they invented Hitler? PR agency in Germany manufactured Hitler. He was doing the wallpaper in their office. He kept hitting. His name was Schickelgruber, but he kept hitting the wall. So they came up with him, Hitler. Good name, Hitler.
Well,
we'll have more with Call Me Lucky director Bobcat Goldthwait after this. We're back with the Call Me Lucky director, Bobcat Goldthwait. The documentary is out now?
Yeah, it's out now. It keeps going to more and more cities. You know, this is the 7th movie I've directed, and I haven't had this experience yet where it keeps going to more cities. You know,
do you still do stand-up?
I do stand-up because, you know, there's a connection that I do it when I need money, Larry. I hate it.
Where did you come up with?
The persona?
Yeah, the screaming the yelling Bobcat.
I have to say,
how did that come about? You yelled.
Yeah, I yelled a lot, and I was nervous. I never really felt comfortable being myself. So early on, all the way back when I met Barry, my stand-up was always weird. It wasn't just traditional stand-up. Like I would read a Dear John letter, and I would be crying. And then I'd put it away, and I'd be like, my wife is so fat. And they're like, how fat is she? She's like, I told you I don't even have a girlfriend, you know. And so I was always more interested in kind of hiding who I was. So the character was just me letting it all hang out.
How did you develop the yelling, though? Why the yelling?
Why the yelling? We didn't have a PA system. No, you know, the fear that I just let this character have, and I was angry, I think, too, you know.
In 2013, Esquire magazine named you Best Director of the Year for God Bless America. When did you get into directing?
Well, I retired from acting the same time they stopped hiring me, so that worked out pretty well. No, I started directing in the early 90s, but it was Jimmy Kimmel who really... he believed in me when people were pretty much using my name as a punchline. He asked me to come along and direct on his other shows before he had his live show. And then I was the guy in the booth calling the show on Kimmel. And it was like, I know people envision that I'm in the booth going, you know, ah! but you know, it's hard work. I say that to you.
Well, you directed Robin Williams in World's Greatest Dad.
Yeah.
There's an article out now about Robin Williams' roles in movies,
right? And
they call that one of his best unsung role. They said it was not a great.
Yeah, people didn't see
success.
it, it you know, it was, you know, he was my best friend. So when we went to work, I remember being very nervous, like thinking, is he going to listen to me? Am I going to say, okay, let's do a take, but this time just do it really quiet? And he'll say, I have an Academy Award and you were in Hot to Trot, you know, but that wasn't the case at all. You know, it was just a couple days in and we really got along really well. Something like that could probably affect a friendship, and it actually bonded us even more.
Do you know he was troubled?
Sure. I mean, you know, Robin and I never spoke about it until recently. But I spoke with Robin almost every day, or text and stuff. We really were really close. But you know, and I'm not a doctor, but his coroner's report said he had Lewy body dementia, which is a form of dementia. So I just wish my friend didn't get sick. You know, I was witnessing this dementia, and it wasn't, you know, it wasn't.
But was it affecting his roles?
Well, he was definitely having, you know, he was really frustrated. He was having a hard time remembering lines, and you know, for someone who was so brilliant and stuff. So it affected everything. You know, I miss him. You know,
Why?
You know, because you know, it's just like his generosity and kindness, and anybody who'd met him, he would make them laugh, but he would also laugh at what they had to say. But he I don't know, you know,
He was a wonderful actor.
yeah, and so it's interesting with people who will come up to me and they have their story or what they saw, but I had a really long lifetime with my friend. My stories aren't about Robin Williams coming in and being hilarious and on. My stories are usually me tormenting him. We were in the Caribbean once, and we were snorkeling, and a huge barracuda just swam up, and it was a few feet from us. And I'd love to tell you I'm a better man than this, but I just grabbed him and threw him in front of me in the barracuda. And then our masks came off, and he's like, you just did that. You just put me in front of the barracuda. I was like, you've had a good run, man. You've had a career. You know? If this thing went horribly wrong, it would just be Robin Williams and other attacked by barracuda.
You're a very bright guy. You really know your way around. What do you make of Cosby?
It was funny. I was ego surfing on the internet, and Patton Oswalt had said, he said, you know, Bobcat Goldthwait's been talking about Bill Cosby being a rapist on stage for 20 years, and I had.
Really?
But I didn't know it was true. You know, you just get lucky sometimes.
You really said that?
Yeah, I had been saying, yeah, things like that.
Where did you get that from?
I had heard from, now it sounds like gossip, but someone I worked with who was a close friend had really uncool encounters. So I didn't know he was a rapist, but I would make jokes along those lines because he just seemed kind of creepy. And then I was going to call my first album something like that. It was like, it's called like, it's going to be like Bill Cosby's a sexual predator. And the record label's like, it's never going to come out. And I was like, well, why can't I just spell it B-Y-L-K-O? And they go, just drop it.
Do you still go out and do stand-up?
Yeah, I do it. I like doing it in the alt rooms. You know, I like doing it in rooms where there are expectations. You know, I get on stage and these crowds that in these other rooms, like the Meltdown and stuff, when I go on, you know, the crowd is in their 20s. You know, they weren't even born when I was relevant, and I love that. I love that there's no baggage. They, you know, I'm just.
How do they know you? From the 80 movies?
No, most of them, if they do know me, they're aware that I make these small movies. But you know, I'm just, you know. I don't know. I really get a big charge out of making a new generation laugh. You know.
Did that screaming? Did it? I remember the first time I interviewed. Did that screaming come natural to you?
No.
I mean, how did you? You're not a screamer. You don't walk down the street screaming.
I'm very quiet. I think.
So how did you come up with screaming?
Well, it wasn't like a decision. It was more like the more I performed, you know, the crowds would see this guy who's nervous and trembling on stage, and some crowds would be cruel to this persona, and I felt very protective. So I would be angry, and it got, you know, it was more like my way of coming out on stage and squirting my musk. Like, you know, you weren't going to attack this guy. It's all crazy.
You were nuts.
Well, I hope I still am, you know.
Bobcat, you're the best.
Oh, thank you.
My thanks to Bobcat Goldthwait. Call Me Lucky is in select theaters now. Can't wait to see it. Be sure to click it. Remember to tweet me at King's Things. I'll see you next time. And who I want next is Crimmins.
Yeah.
Get him here.
All right.